Welcome back to Talk Tickers, everyone. Get ready for another deep dive. This week, we're all about earnings calls.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy one. A lot of market movers coming up.
Absolutely. We're talking big tech, consumer giants, even a peek into Warren Buffett's world.
All in 1 week. Buckle up.
That's right. So we're diving straight into the week ahead, October 28th to November 1st. You ready to map out the week?
I am. Let's go.
Okay, Monday, October 28th, we're kicking things off with Waste Management, ticker symbol WM.
Always an interesting one. They give us a sense of how things are going economically.
Exactly, both for consumers and businesses.
Right. Like if their industrial waste volumes are strong, manufacturing is probably doing well. Good sign for the overall economy.
Makes sense. But lower volumes, well, that might be a bit of a red flag.
Could be.
Okay, moving on. We've got Welltower, that's Well, big player in healthcare REITs.
A lot of their portfolio is senior housing. So their numbers could tell us how rising costs and inflation are hitting that sector.
Interesting. And for the tech folks out there, Monday also brings Cadence Design Systems, CDNS.
The electronic design automation software folks. Crucial for semiconductor manufacturing.
And their performance? That can be a bellwether for the chip industry as a whole.
Definitely. Strong results from Cadence could mean healthy demand for semiconductors, and that ripples out, impacts a bunch of industries.
Big time. Okay, closing out Monday, we've got Ford Motor Company, ticker symbol F.
Always a big one. Lots of eyes on their electric vehicle production.
Well, especially with the competition in that space heating up. Tuesday, October 29th, this is where it gets really interesting.
Tech earnings bonanza.
Starting with who else? Alphabet. GOGL.
Their advertising revenue, that's what I'll be watching given all the talk about a slowdown in digital ad spending.
For sure. And their cloud computing platform, Google Cloud, that's been huge for them.
Huge growth driver. Definitely want to see if that momentum's continuing.
Absolutely. Next up on Tuesday, we've got Visa, the payments giant, ticker symbol V.
Global consumer spending, that's what the results tell us about.
And we've got Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, also reporting on Tuesday. They've been making moves in the CPU and GPU markets.
Challenging Intel and NVIDIA. Should be interesting to see how they're doing.
Last one for Tuesday, it's McDonald's, MCD.
The classic bellwether for consumer discretionary spending. Their earnings, always a good temperature check on consumer sentiment.
Okay, Wednesday, October 30th, more tech giants.
Starting with Microsoft. MSFT.
The cloud computing king with Azure.
Their cloud business has been on fire. Let's see if they can keep that up.
Right. And what about their personal computing business? Any news on the gaming division?
Oh, and that Activision Blizzard acquisition. Still pending, right? Any updates on that would be big news.
Definitely. Wednesday also brings us Meta Platforms. That's Meta, the parent company of Facebook.
User growth, advertising revenue, and of course, the metaverse. All eyes on that.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Wednesday also features Eli Lilly and Company, LLY. Healthcare is stepping up to the plate.
Their diabetes and oncology drugs, that's what I'll be watching.
And speaking of healthcare, we've got AbbVie Inc., ABBV, also reporting on Wednesday.
Humira, their blockbuster drug, that's facing some competition now. Biosimilars.
Cheaper alternatives hitting the market could impact their revenue. Thursday, October 31st, another busy one. Kicking things off with Apple, AAPL.
iPhone sales, of course, but I'm also interested in their services business. Apple Music, iCloud, the App Store, that's been a big growth area for them.
True. And any hints about future products, that always gets people talking. New Macs, iPads, or maybe even that augmented reality headset everyone keeps speculating about.
Right. After Apple, we have Amazon, AMZN.
E-commerce, cloud computing with AWS, and their expansion into new areas like healthcare. Amazon's always up to something.
They don't stand still. Thursday also brings us MasterCard Incorporated.
MA. Consumer spending and the world of digital payments. That's their domain.
Their earnings can tell us a lot about the global economy. And let's not forget Merck & Company, Inc., MRK. Big name in pharmaceuticals.
They'll be sharing updates on their key drug franchises and what's in their research and development pipeline. Friday, November 1st. You'd think things would slow down by now, but we still got some big names on deck.
It's a bit lighter compared to the earlier part of the week, but yeah, still some heavy hitters. Starting with Berkshire Hathaway, Inc., BRKB.
Warren Buffett's company. Everyone wants to know what he's up to.
Their earnings are like a snapshot of the U.S. economy.
And wrapping up the week, we have Exxon Mobil Corporation, XOM, one of the giants in the energy sector.
Oil and gas market, production trends, pricing, It's all on the table with their report.
Wow, what a week. It's going to be a roller coaster. Before we dig into some of the sector trends we're seeing, any initial thoughts for our listeners as they try to navigate this avalanche of earnings reports?
Don't get overwhelmed. Focus on the big picture, the key trends. There's a lot to unpack here.
It is. So let's zoom out for a second. What are some of the bigger sector trends we're seeing emerge from this week's lineup?
Tech's got to be the main event, right? Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the list. It's like a who's who of tech giants and their earnings. They're going to give us a crucial look into the health of the digital economy.
It's true. We're talking about advertising revenue, cloud computing, AI dominance, even the metaverse. These aren't just tech trends, they're reshaping the whole world.
Yeah, exactly. These companies, they're influencing how we work, how we shop, how we connect with each other. It's going to be fascinating to hear what they have to say about what's next.
Absolutely. And then we've got healthcare, another big sector with some major players reporting this week. Eli Lilly, AbbVie, Merck.
Drug pricing trends, the impact of biosimilars, the progress in developing new treatments. Their reports are going to shed light on all of that.
There's always so much innovation happening in healthcare, but there are also a lot of challenges. I'm curious to hear how these companies are tackling those challenges and planning for the future.
Speaking of challenges, one theme that's likely to come up in a lot of these earnings calls is the impact of AI.
Artificial intelligence. It's everywhere these days.
It is. And it's not just a buzzword anymore, it's transforming industries. And from Alphabet to Eli Lilly, companies are integrating AI into their products and services. It's all about boosting efficiency and unlocking new possibilities.
It makes you wonder, what are the long-term implications of all these AI advancements?
Right. Are we on the verge of some major breakthroughs in healthcare, manufacturing, finance? Maybe these earnings calls will give us some clues.
Good point. Okay, we can't talk about the economy without talking about the consumer. And this week, we're going to get some key insights into that realm as well.
McDonald's, Visa, MasterCard. With those companies reporting, we'll get a read on spending habits, confidence levels, and how inflation is impacting people's choices.
Consumer spending. It's the engine of the U.S. economy, so these reports are always important. Are people tightening their belts because of rising prices? Are they shifting their spending to focus on essentials? We'll be looking for answers to those questions.
Absolutely. And let's not forget energy. Exxon Mobil's report. That's going to give us a valuable look into the oil and gas market.
Production trends, pricing dynamics, and the company's outlook for the sector. It's a sector that's facing some huge changes as the world moves towards cleaner energy. What are Exxon Mobil's investments in renewable energy looking like? What are their strategies for navigating the energy transition? And what are their views on the global energy landscape? It'll be interesting to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I think our listeners are getting the picture here.
Sure.
This week is monumental for earnings.
It is. It's a chance to really understand the forces that are shaping both the markets and the economy as a whole.
So we've talked about the big sectors to watch, but are there any specific companies or reports that you're particularly excited about? Anything that's really piqued your interest?
You know, I always find it fascinating to hear from the tech giants, especially Alphabet and Amazon. They're both incredibly innovative, always pushing the boundaries, operating at the forefront of the digital economy. Their earnings calls are always packed with information about where the tech sector is heading.
I agree. And for me personally, I'm really looking forward to Apple's report. I've been an Apple user for a long time, and I'm always curious to hear about their product roadmap and their vision for the future. Their products are so intertwined with our lives these days, it's hard not to be intrigued by what they're working on.
I get it. Their innovation and design have had a huge impact on how we live our digital lives. Besides the giants, I'm also pretty interested in the semiconductor sector. The competition between AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA is intense, and the demand for chips is just growing. That sector is going to be vital for all the technological advancements in the years to come.
You're right, the semiconductor space is heating up. And I'm also curious to see how consumer discretionary does this week. With inflation and interest rates on the rise, that's a bit of a wild card. Could be a key indicator of how resilient the broader economy really is.
That's a good point. The consumer is such a powerful force in the economy. Understanding their spending habits, it can give us a lot of insight into the bigger picture.
Definitely. Okay, before we move on to our final thoughts, any other trends or themes worth pointing out?
Actually, yes. I think one theme that's going to be particularly relevant this week is the impact of all these macroeconomic headwinds. You know, things like inflation, supply chain issues, and the tight labor market. These factors are affecting businesses across every sector. So I'm really interested to hear how companies are adapting their strategies to deal with these challenging times.
It's a tough environment out there for sure. It'll be interesting to see how these earnings calls reflect that.
Yeah, definitely. And we can't forget about the geopolitical stuff either. That always has the potential to shake things up.
Oh, for sure. The war in Ukraine, tensions between the U.S. and China, all of that's creating risks and opportunities for companies.
Exactly. I bet those issues will be top of mind for a lot of CEOs when they're talking about their outlook.
Yeah, no doubt. Global interconnectedness, it means companies can't just ignore what's happening in the rest of the world.
Nope. Like energy companies are having to deal with those volatile oil and gas prices because of the war in Ukraine. And semiconductor companies are navigating those trade tensions between the U.S. and China. It adds a whole other layer of complexity to things.
It does. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into next week's earnings reports.
We have.
We went through the packed calendar, highlighted the key sectors to watch, and talked about the big trends and themes that'll be shaping the market.
I think we gave everyone a good overview.
I hope so. Now, before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they brace themselves for this earnings deluge?
Just remember, earnings reports, they're just one piece of the puzzle. It's important to keep that long-term perspective, Don't get too caught up in the short-term ups and downs. Focus on the fundamentals of the businesses you're investing in. Look at their long-term growth potential. See how well they're positioned to handle the current economic and geopolitical landscape.
That's great advice. It's so easy to get swept up in the hype of the moment. But yeah, keeping a level head and focusing on those fundamentals, that's key.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask questions, dig a little deeper. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make good investment decisions.
Couldn't agree more. So as we head into this massive earnings week, anything in particular that stands out to you? Any specific companies or sectors you'll be watching extra closely?
For me, I'm really interested to see how the tech giants, especially Alphabet and Amazon, are handling these challenges. Slowing economic growth, more competition, and that evolving regulatory landscape. It'll be interesting to see how they're adapting.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm also curious about consumer discretionary. Will spending stay strong? Or will we see people start to pull back because of those rising prices and the economic uncertainty?
Good point. That'll be an important one to watch. And you know what? I'm also curious to see how the energy sector is handling that global push for clean energy. What are their long-term plans?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Well, I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about as they get ready for this week. And as always, we encourage everyone to do their own research, stay informed, and make investment decisions that align with their own risk tolerance and financial goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, folks, earnings season, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Stay focused, stay informed, and happy investing.
That's it for this week's Talk Tickers Weekly Preview. We'll be back next week to break down the most important earnings reports and what they mean for the market. Until then, happy investing.